Hey everyone, Cooper here, host of the fine podcast you're listening to. I just want to let you know that the episode you clicked on has a format that is very heavily inspired by a podcast called The Bookening. To be clear, our thoughts and opinions in this episode are our own, but the format is very similar to this podcast. I just wanted to give you a heads up and give credit where it is due. With that out of the way, enjoy the show. Coming up next, Booking It reads The Pilgrim's Progress. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Booking It. I'm of course your humble and eloquent host, Mr. Cooper Cobbs, and joining me today are three of my friends who are about to brave this journey of podcasting, Mr. Matthew Killingsworth.
Howdy.
And Mr. Isaiah Retsky.
Hello.
All right, actually, sorry, I missed a big opportunity. I should have said something like, faithful or hopeful or something like that. Matthew could have been muscular, and Isaiah could have been I don't know.
Can you see my screen?
Couch potato.
Yeah, I can, Matthew.
Oh, yeah.
Matthew is currently flexing, so I think that if we were to go on a journey, Matthew would be something like muscular.
Bulky.
I do want to say, though, before we start, it is my sister's birthday today as we record.
Oh, we're keeping all that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to read it so you could make your joke.
No, it's fine. My sister's birthday is today, and even though she never listens to these and never listens to this episode, I just want to, give her a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Caroline.
Yeah. And so for her birthday, my parents are getting her a phone.
Oh.
Her first
Yes,
phone,
happy
and
birthday.
she's 14. So, but when my dad went into the AT&T store to get her a SIM card, yeah, my dad's he's a nice person. He's a genial guy, and so he's like, yeah, it's for her birthday, and she's turning So yeah, it's for her birthday. It's her first phone. And he goes, oh, how old is she turning? 9, 10? He goes, no, she's 14. And the guy's like, what? How? What? First phone? Wow. And the AT&T guy was freaking out over she was 14 and never had a phone before.
I didn't have a phone until I was 14.
No, I know. I was almost 14, and Isaiah was a lot younger.
That
That's
is
okay.
funny.
We don't blame him for that.
Yeah, we do. Let's be honest.
Well, technically, I never had a number or data or anything till last year.
Anyway, today the book we're talking
Hey,
about.
you know what I'm excited about on this podcast today?
What?
We'll be doing exactly what Cooper said right at the beginning. He said, today, Booking It reads Pilgrim's Progress, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be reading out loud the entire book on this episode. And do not turn it off. It will be so entertaining. Don't turn it off. We know you want to hear it. All right. In the beginning, God created the... No,
Okay, we're joking. No, we're not doing that. I don't know what happened. Okay. Talking about Pilgrim's Progress today. The great classic by John Bunyan, written in, I think
Isn't it Bunyan or something?
I don't know, John Bunyan. Yeah, it's Bunyan. Was it written in the 1700s or something like that, 1600s? I don't know. Whatever. But, interesting fact, it is the
Yes.
best-selling novel of all time, if you consider a novel. But it's actually not a novel. Or people consider it more of an allegory, so they don't count as a novel, so it's technically not. But if it was, it would be.
So it's the best-selling allegory of all time?
I guess you could say that, yeah. I think it sold over 1 billion. I don't know what the exact number is. But yeah. Really popular book.
I mean, they literally made a board game off of it, too, so...
That's true. There have been several things like that. And by the way, just for sake of reference and people who are reading along with us, we were only talking about Christian's journey, and maybe one day we'll do Christina's journey, but we only had to read Christian's part for school. So anyway, long roundabout way to say what you guys baggage with this book. And baggage, of course, the part of the show where we each tell our own personal history with the book of discussion.
I'll go first. So, it was way back when, summer 2020, and a guy at my church, who also happens to be the pastor, named Matt Boswell, was like, I want to do a men's Bible study on the Pilgrim's Progress. And so, a bunch of us dudes read the Pilgrim's Progress a little bit at a time, and then like every week we would do a FaceTime, or I guess it was a Zoom technically. It was Zoom, back in the Zoom days, that's a big thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we do a Zoom call. We talk about it, and then we talk about what that meant in relation to the Bible, and talk about the different characters, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure it's kind of what we'll talk about here. Definitely what we talked about in class. And then Matt would kind of do, a little lengthy explanation, a little bit more like a sermon, and and then we'd like pray it out. So it was kind of like a Bible study, but it was
a book study.
It wasn't based off of Well, it was really more like a Bible study, talking about like situations in life and how the Bible, what advice the Bible gives on that and how the Bible applies to that. Except it wasn't situations in real life, like stories that people in the Bible study were sharing. It was like situations from this book.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, it was good. I remember thinking it was pretty boring, but then, so I've only read it twice. The second time was like a couple weeks ago when we read it for school, and I liked it a lot better the second time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I just really enjoyed the allegory part of it. And then we also got to write our own allegories for school, which I also really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
And so, I mean, maybe like if we run out of stuff to talk about, we can read those on here.
No, I was thinking about that, and I think that'd be a good idea. So I think we'll probably have some
on
time
here
for
or
that.
on the Patreon one.
We can do it on here.
Okay.
If we're all okay with that.
Yeah.
I don't have mine anymore, and I don't remember what I had.
Well,
I'll read mine.
yeah, I'll read mine too. All right, Isaiah, your baggage.
Well, I guess the first time I ever heard of it was like, I don't know how old that was. I was like 7, I think 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like seeing something that said Pilgrim's Progress or some like big book about it, and I asked my dad about it. He said it was like really good, but I probably wouldn't be able to like understand it or really be able to read it and have like the patience to read it for a bit. So I didn't. I think I read it first time when I was like 10. I think I've read it like 3 times so far over the course of my life.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like Matthew, every time I've read it, I've appreciated it.
Yeah.
more.
I think it's definitely one of those books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, same thing, similar to Isaiah. I think, actually, this is what happened. So, my mom checked it out. I don't think it was the real version. I think it was an audio drama based on Pilgrim's Progress. And I listened to that and really enjoyed it. And then I think later on I listened to the audiobook version of the real version. I really enjoyed it again. And then also I read an abridged version as well. So I've read and listened to the abridged version a couple times, and maybe the real version. And then, like Matthew said, this year we had to read it for school, and I picked it up and I read it, and I found it really good and really helpful and entertaining, even though I think it's not perfect, but really good. All right.
For Tanner, it was just sitting there on his bookshelf.
Yeah, I mean, that's I don't doubt that's what happened. If we were to, call Tanner right now and be like, yo, Pilgrim's Progress baggage, he'd be like, appeared on my bookshelf. And he'd be like, yo, thanks, peace out. Anyway.
It appeared on his bookshelf like 1,000 years ago, though.
Yeah. Probably.
So it's a really old bookshelf.
Yeah.
But then again, Tanner's a pretty old guy himself.
I would love to hear the fan fiction story of Tanner's bookshelf. If you guys want to write a story about how Tanner's bookshelf came to be.
We don't actually have that many fans. Cooper.
We don't. But if you do, you have our email. So.
And if you don't worry, I wouldn't either.
Yes. I think it'd be really fun, though. All right. My first question for you is this. Did you find the allegory in Pilgrim's Progress to be accurate?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right, in which cases?
Yeah.
Oh, just like for the specific characters?
Oh, yeah, I would just elaborate on your answer, I guess.
Oh, well, you gotta stop asking yes or no questions, buddy. This is not cross-examination. Yes, like especially for Christian, just kind of everything was an allegory for him. It wasn't like they just said the name Christian and that referred to all Christians,
right.
Which that was true. But it was also like when they would talk about carrying his burdens, like that didn't mean physical bags.
No, even though it's portrayed the way.
Well, it did in the book, but like in real life, that refers to like the things really when we have heavy things on our mind all the time, or we're going through things that are burdens like that. And so like kind of just everything like that was an allegory. So I thought that was really cool. For other characters, I don't know. I feel like all the other characters are just accurately were placed in their parts on his journey, like really well. Like hopeful and faithful, just kind of being encouraging, and also his neighbors as well. What were their names again?
I think one of them was Pliable. I don't remember what the other one was called, though. I don't have a book in front of me. So
Right, but just where, those were also great examples of allegories, because one of them stayed with him for a little while, and one of them turned back. And I don't know, just all those names accurately represented their characters, and then just the actions of the characters as well.
Yeah, I think I should back up a little bit. Do you guys generally like allegory in other books, or is it really just kind of a hit or miss thing?
I think I like it. I think I like it more and more, like the more that I read them, because I can't think of a lot of other allegories that I read, but just like we're going through the New Testament as well with our CC class this year, and all of Jesus's parables, just like how he uses a worldly object or something that just everyone can understand because it's super simple, and it really has an infinitely deep spiritual meaning that, like, however, like basically the closer you are to God and the more you understand about God, the more you understand about what he's trying to communicate.
Right.
And like even when you go back and read the same parable years later, it has a whole different meaning just in your own life. And I think, like, obviously John Bunyan didn't create a parable or allegory quite as deep as Jesus is. It does have a limit, but it still, like, you can dig further and further the more times you read it.
It's an allegory in the sense of basically it's a story with a hidden meaning, basically. That's what
I mean, it's a pretty clear, like, what he's getting at, but it's still, I don't know. I think it's still just a great job.
So I think the other obvious example of this is the Chronicles of Narnia. So how do you feel about the allegory in Chronicles of Narnia?
I think it's good because when you're, okay, so let's say you're someone who's not a Christian and you're actually someone who gets, a little bit annoyed when Christian stuff pops in places and try to avoid that. I think obviously in the Bible, like, if you don't like Christianity, you're not going to want to read the Bible. And also with this book, the fact that he's named Christian, and it's just clearly, showing heaven and hell and him on the journey to heaven, that kind of stuff. It's very clear that it's about Christianity. With Narnia, it's even a little bit more hidden, all the analogies. They have different names that are kind of just random names. I'm sure some of them are like really well thought out names that mean something, but just like, having names like Lucy and that kind of stuff.
Aslan.
Yeah, Aslan. I don't know what that means. Probably means something deeper, but like it's just way more hidden, and it's taking you to another world through a wardrobe. Just like it's a creative fantasy novel, but it's also double-sided. Instead of,
right.
I feel like Pilgrim's Progress was definitely creative, but it's like creative in the sense of creating good allegories that fit the story you're already trying to convey, instead of having a double-sided story.
Right. I think in this case the allegory is the story, and in Chronicles of Narnia it's more of a tool, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think. Oh, actually, Isaiah, do you want to weigh on this real fast?
I agree with what Matthew said.
So Aslan means lion in Turkish.
Oh, okay.
That is pretty deep.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Okay, so what was the question again? Sorry, I was trying to...
Why'd he pick Turkish?
How you feel
That's what it
about
says.
allegory generally?
No, but why would he pick Turkish out of all? Did it just sound cool?
Maybe because it sounds the best. I mean,
Yeah, probably because the other ones are probably like
Leo, yeah, Leonardo.
I was just kind of asking how you felt about allegory generally.
I mean, I've never really... Well, okay. Before, like, 2 years ago, I never really noticed them or paid attention to them. But I guess just same as Pilgrim's Progress, I don't know, I started noticing them more, appreciating them more. And realizing how they can have much deeper meanings.
So I think that with allegory comes some problems. I mean, in the Chronicles of Narnia especially, you're creating a character who's supposed to be Jesus, the heavenly savior of all, right? So I think with that, it can be borderline, but also I think that, like Matthew said, it can be really impactful, and you can get a lot out of it, and it can help you, and it's more tangible for people. And I guess Matthew said it helps people get heavenly truth without reading the Bible necessarily. So kind of going off of that, what was kind of the most impactful thing that you drew from Pilgrim's Progress? Whether it's a name or a situation or a scene.
I think it's just like that Christian who represents all Christians on their journey. Like I can like relate to because I am a Christian on that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then just seeing like the different allegories that just encompass like different things that I know I've gone through, or like I don't know, that the different parts of his journey that I can also recognize in my same journey, and his interactions with the other characters, and then I can think of people or things in my life that like are those characters. I think that's why it's so cool, especially reading it as a Christian, is because you can
relate.
You can like pick those things out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely agree with Matthew on that. And then I don't know, I just liked how it just kind of, I don't know, one part that always stuck out to me was just whenever he just sees the cross, doesn't literally just looks at it and loses, like his baggage is gone, or
his burden.
Yeah. But like all he has to do is just look at it or like turn his eyes to it, kind of like with the bronze serpent with the Israelites in
from the
desert, wherever that was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's like it's turning your eyes to Christ. Like that was kind of a whole theme with that story in the Bible with Peter walking on the water. As long as he was looking at Christ and like had faith in Christ, had hope that Christ was, going to keep him above the water, and that's like kind of what looking at him represented, then he was fine. And as soon as he took his eyes off, got distracted, started looking at other stuff, started looking at himself to see like, am I going to stay up here by myself? No, you're not. He falls back into the water and Jesus has to pull him out again. And it's like the same thing. Just looking at the cross, all your burdens are taken away because you don't have to deal with it. It's Jesus keeping you above the water. It's Jesus carrying your burdens for you. It's not you doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that scene is a really, really powerful one. Just the fact that he's carrying this burden, and it's so cumbersome and heavy, and the moment that he turns aside to the cross, it just falls down, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
As for me, I think one of the most impactful things just I can take away is how often Christian falls and stumbles in whatever he's doing. Not just like metaphorically, I mean, whether he gets tempted away or he goes on a wrong path or something like that, and then he's reprimanded, and yet then he's set back on the path again, and he has the forgiveness, and he's just, I think that there's so many times in our lives I think we stumble, and we don't have to, and there are people in our life who love us and would like to not see us stumble, and that we just need to listen to them. Or that one scene near the end where Christian and Hopeful are walking, and they go on the wrong path, but Hopeful was like, I don't know if we should be doing this. Christian's like, no, it's fine. But then they go on the wrong path, and they get whipped and caught and all that kind of stuff. Then I think that there's so many times in our lives we have mentors and people who care about us who prevent us from stumbling, and yet we still do the wrong things anyway. But also, even in that, we get the forgiveness of our Heavenly Father who still loves us, which I think is awesome too.
Mm-hmm. Right, and all the times that he stumbles along the wrong path for a little while, and there's always someone else that helps him turn back to the right path, and it's just like, not, those people aren't doing it by themselves. They're doing it because they were sent to do that, like by God, just for Christian. Like that's the, I mean, I don't know. It also just like represents how God uses everyone. Like, I don't know, it's crazy, like a giant master plan, just using everyone for everyone's good, like all at the same time, all for the glory of Him. It's crazy how that all works.
Well, another one of my favorite scenes is the scene where he's talking, and there's two other travelers. I forget what their names are, but they're the two pathways, and one of them was like an easy little path, and then the other one is a hard path that leads to the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And he's standing there at the crossroads with these people, and it's based off of the narrow gate, Enter by the Narrow Gate, right?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
And that verse has always been one of my favorites, especially rereading Matthew this year. Just the narrow gate is narrow, but and the people who enter by it are few, but the rewards are incredible, and it's worth it in the end. So that's another one of my favorite scenes.
Yes. Okay. And talking about that right now, can I go ahead and read my thing? Because that's kind of where this fits in.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
talking about like the other characters helping him back on the right path and the different size paths and that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm going to read it. This is what I wrote for school last week for Pilgrim's Progress. All right. Countability is the name of my imaginary character in John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. Countability would be essentially an equal to Christian on his journey. He would travel alongside Christian up the road to the celestial city, providing support, company, advice, help, and of course, accountability. The brotherly bond of the two is an unbreakable one, as they constantly challenge and push each other forward, as described in Proverbs 27:17, which states, "Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another." These two men will always be there for each other because they are both traveling to the same destination, and both are willing to pull the other back onto the narrow road, should they stray. Countability is the fictional representation of the brotherhood or sisterhood that Christians should take part in. This sinful world is full of temptations, which open wide, easy-to-follow paths. However, we are not on this journey because it is easy. In fact, as Christian would attest, there are many heavy, bulging burdens that we must carry along the way. But with a brother, it's only half a burden, and with the Father, the burden is taken away. This is the true importance of accountability and why Christian relies on his best friend, Countability.
Yeah, it's really good.
Nice.
My favorite part, I pointed this out in class too, is his character is countability, not accountability. So
Yeah, I didn't know if that'd be a little bit like, I don't know, unprofessional or something to do for that, but I thought it was
that
kind of
sounds
funny.
pretty cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome. All right, so next question for you guys: do you feel like Christian's journey accurately represents the modern day Christian journey?
Yeah, I think so, because that's the beauty of like using those allegories he used, is because like one allegory of say the allegory of the narrow path versus the wide path. The narrow path is clearly the same. It's the path that you follow to get to heaven. It's the hard path, but it's the most rewarding in the end. Then all the other wide paths just encompass any kind of temptation that strays you from that one path. And it can be, it's an extremely wide range of things, but as long as it's taking you away from the path that you should be on to get to heaven, or to get to the celestial city in his case, then it's a temptation and it's one of those wide paths. So like, obviously temptations look a little bit different than they did back when this was written. I mean, some of them are probably still the same, and some of them have just changed with the time and like with technology and with like everything that's just different now.
Yeah, and if I can kind of jump in right there, I think that Vanity Fair is a good example of this, because Vanity Fair is what would be the example of basically a city with all of the temptations and pleasures of the world at the time when John Bunyan wrote the book. And today, I don't know if that would be the exact, all of those things would be the same. I think it would be something different. Everybody would be on their phones. They'd have all the money. They'd have fame and glory and things like that.
Or even just like having something that's not necessarily bad, like liking a book. Like let's just say Harry Potter. If you really like Harry Potter and you're so obsessed with Harry Potter that you read it all the time, even when you should be reading the Bible or spending time, doing stuff that you need to get done because, your authority tells you to get it done, like doing school because your parents tell you to do it. And, you should listen to your parents because God commands you to. And you're replacing everything with this one thing that you're obsessed with. Then even that's not in and of itself a bad thing, becomes a wide road that's leading you away from God.
Wise words from Matthew.
Go ahead and support our future spinoff podcast. Isaiah, what about you? Did you feel like the Christian's journey in Pilgrim's Progress accurately represented the modern day Christian journey?
I mean, yeah, it was very good in like representing it, basically with the allegories for like our struggles and all that. I mean, it's never gonna get it exactly with what we are struggling with, but it's a good way of showing like you're gonna struggle, and you're gonna struggle with a lot of stuff on your way to going to heaven, but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, I agree. I think it really is just it's a really cool book. I think another thing, a benefit of allegory is you can explain things almost better than you can with just straight teaching. Like if I were to tell you, just for example, don't jump into big holes. It's a stupid example, but okay. But it's another thing if I were to tell a story about this guy who you liked and then he fell in a hole and died. It's more impactful that way. I don't know. It's kind of a weird example.
That'd be tough.
You kind of get what I'm saying? It's better to illustrate it this way in a really cool allegorical way that carries a lot of meaning and depth, and you get the meaning even better than you would if just someone was preaching it to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty cool. Were any of the characters who were the bad characters just had weird names? Which one of those stood out the most to you, whether it was Pliable or some random person?
Mr.
Talkative?
Worldly Wisdom.
Worldly Wise?
Yeah.
Why was that?
Mostly just because he was the first one I could remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really remember
But
them right now. Because most of the things
I get kind of confused with the names a lot, actually.
Yeah. Most of it's focused on Christian and, like, hopeful and all that who are, like, near him.
Well,
So
I mean, there were a
remember
good few. There were a good few bad, like.
Oh, yeah, there
representations
were.
in there,
I'm
but
just saying I don't
Worldly
really
Wise.
remember them.
Yeah, Worldly Wise, I guess, just like a person that I guess it could be someone that you want to listen to for some reason, and you just got to be careful because, like, their wisdom is not God's wisdom. It's worldly wisdom, and you know what? Maybe it's even really helpful stuff to succeed and make a whole lot of money while you're here on Earth, if it's that kind of thing, and wisdom on how to be a really great businessman and make all this money. But then, like, you're gonna die and you're gonna leave this Earth, and what really matters is where you're going after.
Mm-hmm. I think that the one that was most impactful to me was Ignorant. And this is the guy who it comes with Christian Hopeful at the very end. And basically it's the guy who thinks that he's saved, but is really not. And he's kind of based off of another section from Matthew, where it's, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. He's the guy who's read everything, he knows everything, blah, blah, blah. But yet he's not saved, and he doesn't have the scroll, and they took like a shortcut or something like that. And at the very end of the novel, Christian Hopeful throw him down the shortcut to hell. And I remember from my first reading of this, when I was a little kid in the abridged version, that was one of the things that stood out to me, was he thought he had security, or maybe he thought he did, or he tried to trick his way in, and he didn't, and he got thrown into hell. So, is there anything else you guys wanted to say about this before I read my allegorical thing? Okay, so basically just a little context on mine. Mine is kind of describing my spiritual journey. So don't get really concerned in the beginning. All right, here we go. Christian was walking along the streets of the city of destruction, on his way to make the perilous journey to the celestial kingdom. On his way through the city, he passed a man who was returning to his house after a long day. Mr. Almost Enough Courage, he was called. He stopped Christian in the street and asked him, "Where are you going in such determination?" To which Christian replied, "To make the journey to the celestial city, where there are treasures and rewards beyond imagining." Mr. Almost Enough Courage said, "Ah, I too know of the city, and plan to take the journey. I would go with you, but not today, for I have things to do. My job, my life, they must occupy my days now. I have time. I will go when I am ready. Perhaps in just a few more days." Christian doubted his reasoning. "Do you believe that the city will one day soon be laid low?" Yes, I believe that," said Mr. Almost Enough Courage. "Do you believe that the celestial city is welcome to all and is home to all sorts of glory?" "Do you believe that we inherit eternal life if we go?" Christian asked. "Yes, I believe all of that," replied Mr. Almost Enough Courage. "I am almost ready to make my journey. Just a few more days." "Why would you not go now?" said Christian. "Take your family with you and make the journey now. The city will be no more soon." "My family has all gone to the celestial city. It is just me now." And he sadly turned from Christian and went into his house muttering, yes, just a few more days, just a few more days." Christian went away saddened at this, but was glad to be making his journey now. Weeks after Christian had found rest in the celestial city after his long pilgrimage, Mr. Almost Enough Courage made the same journey and was renamed Passionate. He too made it to the gates and entered into the glory of the celestial city. Alright, so that's mine. Thanks. All right, was there anything else you guys wanted to say? Would you recommend Pilgrim's Progress to people?
Yeah, probably not to everyone. If you don't like reading, then it'd probably be pretty rough.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk a little bit about the novel aspects, but it's kind of dense, and it's a little bit hard to follow because there's not a lot of exposition. It's just dialogue mostly. But I would definitely, we've been talking about it. It's extremely helpful to you. It's really, really good read, and it illustrates a lot of the truths of the gospel in a narrative way. So, highly recommend it. All right, guys, let's do some donor shout-outs. So, you guys know what shtick we're going to do. You guys know. It has to be this way.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say the donor, and you guys say what name you think they'd be.
Okay.
But before we do that, Isaiah, where would someone go if they wanted a donor shout-out?
They'd have to go to patreon.com/bookinit and donate to any of our tiers that are $5 and above.
That is correct. All right. Matthew. Nana.
Booking it to the Celestial City.
That's their name?
Yes.
Bro,
It's actually
why
a good
did you
pun,
choose
but-
this? This is going to be forever.
Okay. Isaiah. Ben, Pappy, and Wayla.
Hold on.
Just pick like a decent adjective and add an ER to the end. Or not. Don't, it doesn't work.
Faithful. I don't know.
Okay.
Just go with that.
Matthew, Mike, and Sylvia.
No, you gotta do one. Come on.
Yeah, Cooper.
Oh, me?
You must share the
Okay.
pain.
Yeah.
Mike and Sylvia. Let's do encouraging. Encourager. Mr. and Mrs. Encourager, obviously. All right. Come on. Matthew, Isaiah's parents, Mike and Laura.
Kindlier.
Kindlier. Got it. All right, Isaiah, your Uncle Sebi.
Supporter.
Ooh. Ho. And for me and Jenny and Uncle Sam, I'm going to go with... Oh, I had one. What was it? Oh, yes. Prayerful. All right. Matthew. Moses.
Big thumbs up.
All right. Isaiah, your cousin Zara.
Hopeful.
Okay.
Imagine using a name that's in the book.
Chris.
Imagine using thumbs up.
Passionate. All right, Matthew. Anna.
Joyful.
Awesome. And Isaiah. Emily.
Immensely awesome.
Is that allowed, Cooper?
Yeah, sure.
Immensely awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the funny things, I don't know if we talked about it, but it was the fact that they didn't really recognize the personality trait with the name. So when Ignorant was talking to Christian and Hopeful, they're like, yeah, this guy seems legit, even though his name was Ignorant. And then then later on, Christian was Hopeful, I don't think this guy's legit. And you're like, yeah, okay. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed that. We'll be back next time with, I think it's Robinson Crusoe. So, yeah. A less awesome book than this one. But we'll have fun talking about it. And, oh yes, make sure you support us. Links in the description. Leave a 5-star rating and review. Blah, blah, blah. And until next time.
Keep on booking it.